and welcome to Full Colour Alchemy. My name's Led Sharp and this is going to be a top 7 list of my personal favourite trade paperbacks, collected editions and long form comics. Now, out of breath because it's really hot. There are some qualifiers for this. Firstly, I have to actually own the comic. Secondly, it has to be longer than 96 pages long, otherwise it just feels like a really big summer special or an annual. And thirdly, no actual periodical runs. So I've got like the full collection of Walt Simonson's Thor run, for example. I'm not including that because it's not a trade paperback, long form comic or collected edition. So there you go. These are the comics that I'd run back into the house to get if it was on fire. So that gives you some impression of how much they mean to me. There are some honourable mentions, like my full run of The Invisibles, The Eternals, Civil War, Jason Comics, Monstrous. Yeah, I've got a whole heap of comics in there that could have gone on this list, but these are the ones that for some reason I can go back to, the evergreens, the ones that I could just pick up and read and enjoy, like it was the first time I'd ever read them. So that's why they're on this list. So without further ado, I'm going to start with J. Michael Straczynski and Oliver Coipel's Thor, Collected Edition, Volume 1, published by Marvel and collecting issues 1 to 6 of Thor Volume 3, way back in September of 2007. 13 years ago. Holy shit, I'm old. Thanks to recently gaining a shit ton of Thor comics, including Walt Simonson's run and always kinda liking Thor and loving Babylon 5 and being rather taken with the redesign of Thunderpants, I decided to pick up the trade. It was a revelation and truly made a deposit in the nostalgia bank, with bringing Donald Blake back, rethinking the setup for the contemporary audience by setting Asgard as a floating city in Broxton, America and making Thor the king, pushing the fantasy politics and what it would be like to have literal gods in a US state that seemed fairly tinged with red and a traditional Christian element. Shannon Wheeler's Too Much Coffee Man, Guide for the Perplexed, published by Dark Horse way back in 1998. No, seriously, I'm feeling really old. An early sardonic indie that went from superhero pastiche to somnambulist musings on non-committal events and a level of navel-gazing that turns itself inside out. The amount of work that went into this amount of apathy is so well observed, with cyclical logic that puts the pathetic into sympathetic and makes you laugh at the same time. I also bought it because I drank too much coffee. Transformers, Target 2006 by Simon Furman and Jeff Anderson. A comic that got me into Transformers but actually cemented my love of comics without me realising it. My mum bought me a copy of this when I was twee because Return of the Jedi had finished and I needed 4-coloured ink to fill the veins, and an intriguing time travel story about giant robots that culminated in this. Led me to buy the trade paperback when it was released decades later in one of those bi-monthly, ever-increasing price collections you see advertised after Christmas. For a story about giant robots kicking 7 bells out of each other, it's damn near perfect. Astro City Confession by Kurt Busiek and Brent Anderson, trade 2 of this series released way back in 1996. I'm doing nothing for my self-confidence by showing you how old I am. A pure story with an actual plot and genuine intrigue. It's hard to describe exactly how good a story Confession is without giving away the plot. The story revolves around Brian Kinney, who moves to Astro City to become a sidekick to a big league superhero, and his wide-eyed fan-like admiration mirrors the reader's own when they first get into superheroes. But as the reader and Brian's knowledge of the world you are taking part in grows, so does its faults and its strengths. I actually feel like rereading this right now and I actually remember most of the story. That's how good it is. The atmosphere is so perfect. Understanding Comics: The Invisible Art by Scott McCloud, a comic that taught me about comics without me realising it was a comic till I was about halfway through. I wish I'd found this when I was in art college. During my time at art college, comics as a medium were shat upon from a great height, and it was only after I left I found this in a library and realised that neither I or the tutors understood them and didn't have the vocabulary to explain why we were being so stuck up. Seriously, there's more out there than Barefoot Gen and Mouse. Arkham Asylum by Grant Morrison and Dave McKeon. When I got into comics in a big way, as in they became my go-to medium rather than something I just really liked, it was because of the 1989 Batman movie. I bought everything with a bat symbol on it, and boy was this an eye-opener. It has an atmosphere thicker than Jupiter's, and it's one of the rare versions of the Joker I can still tolerate. Compared with the disaster that Morrison committed with Batman R.I.P., this still holds up as a work of genius. Though it must be noted, the simple plot and glorious art allow the deep storytelling the space to breathe rather than drown in pretension. Spleenal by Nigel... I genuinely can't pronounce this name, I am so sorry. By Blank Slate Books. Time-travelling pervery from a titular character by a man with an impossible name who used to work for the Dandy. This is a recent edition, and it's a regular reread for me because it's an example of pitch-perfect visual humour, subtle gags and shameless dirty jokes. There must have been a great source of catharsis for Nigel after being constricted by cow pie on the Dandy. And it's a time travel story to boot. Throw in a werewolf and I will be a happy bunny. I desperately need to read the follow-up Meg, but I can't find it anywhere. Right, and so there you have it, my top 7 list. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm absolutely exhausted because it is disgustingly hot. We had massive storms last night. Please stay safe. It's apparently things are changing tomorrow with it being June the 15th. This doesn't mean that the thing's gone away. It doesn't mean life returns to normal. So just stay safe, use PPE and social distancing, and please come back next time I do one of these videos. So take care and have fun reading comics.